Okay, we're on to 1.4, measure and classify angles. So here we have an angle. Let's go ahead and read through the definition. An angle consists of two different rays. Okay, so you've got AC and AB. Those are the two rays. Okay, the rays are the sides of the angle. The end point is the vertex of the angle. So right here, this is the vertex. The angle with sides AB and AC can be named angle. This is the geometry symbol for, or the geometric symbol for angle. Angle BAC, you can name it that way. You always have to have 2 points in the vertex, or you can name it angle CAB. Or you can just say angle A. You can name it just by the vertex, the point there. Okay, so there's 3 different ways that you can label this. So name the 3 angles in the diagram. So here you can see that we have an angle. So you can label the first one W, X, Y, so that's the top angle, or you can call this angle Y, X, W. So that's one of the first angles right here. Then the next angle is this one here, which you can call angle Y, X, Z, or you can call it angle Z, X, Y. So you've got this angle here, you've got this smaller angle here, but then you've got the big angle that does this. So the third angle is WXZ, or you can call it angle ZXW. But you cannot name any of these angles X. Like here, this angle A just went to one straight angle right here. But X goes to the first and the second, so it cannot be named X. That's the difference between the two. You should be able to spot this. Using a protractor, they found that this angle in example 1 is 32 degrees. So we're going to be dealing with classifying angles and labeling them and finding their degrees. So you can write it in word form, and you can say the measure of angle WXZ is 32 degrees. So if you write it in words, you would write it this way, or most of the time in math, you're going to write it in symbols. So this is the way that you write an angle. So you've got small m, then the angle notation, then what you call the angle, and then what it's equal to. So angle WXZ equals 32 degrees. So of course you're going to go with symbols because they're quicker, and that's what most of the geometry textbook is going to refer to. But if you wrote it in words, you could write it like this, but you have to get used to this. So remember, when you do an angle, always a small m, the angle symbol, and whatever the angle is named, and then whatever the degree is. So down here, we're going to go and we're going to look at a protractor and the protractor postulate. Okay, how to read a protractor. Maybe a while since you've done it, it's not difficult, but let's look. You can see on this protractor, on the inside, it goes from 0 all the way around to 90. Halfway is obviously, to 180. Halfway is obviously the 90-degree angle. Okay, on the outside, the 0 starts here, and this goes all the way to 180. So you've got an inside and you've got an outside. Okay, so let's look at what they say. Consider ray OB. So here is the ray, endpoint here, OB, and a point A on one side of OB. Okay, so you've got your point A here. The rays of the form OA can be matched 1-to-1 with real numbers from 0 to 180. So the measure of angle, always read it AOB. So you're talking about this whole measure right here. That's the angle they're talking about. Is equal to the absolute value of the difference between the real numbers from ray OA and OB. So one of the ways that you can read a protractor is you just use a little common sense, okay? You know that this angle is past 90 and it's going close to 180. So you're not going to pick the reading on the outside and say this angle is 40. The angle goes from here to here, so it has to be 140. So that's how you can tell whether you're going to use the outside or the inside. Is the angle above 90? Is it less than 90? And we're going to get on to how we call different angles in a moment. Okay, so let's look at this and let's start looking at how we classify angles. All right, so classifying angles. Angles can be classified as acute, right, obtuse, and straight. And you've heard all these before in elementary. May have been a while. The most famous one and easiest one is obviously the right angle. But let's go ahead and go through. So acute angle here. What it's saying is the angle A is bigger than 0 and less than 90. So it could be 1 degrees all the way to 89.9. So it's less than 90 and greater than 0. So that's what an acute angle looks like. You should be able to look at it and spot it real easy. A right angle, well, obviously it has that square. It's exactly 90 degrees. So an obtuse angle, you can see it's greater than 90. So this is an angle that's greater than 90 and less than 180. So it can be anywhere from 90.5 to 179.9. Then a straight angle is just a straight line that is exactly 180 degrees. So all of this should be coming back to you. So we're going to look here. They've got example 2. They've got angles. Let's go ahead and get as close as we can and still get it all on the same page. So let me go ahead. There we go. Okay, so use the diagram to find the measure of the indicated angle. Then classify the angle. So always read, because some of your homework has 1 part, some has 2 parts. So they want you to write the degree and they want you to say whether it's right, acute, obtuse, or straight. So let's look at the first one. Angle KHJ. So angle KHJ. Okay, so we know it's less than 90. So we are not going to be looking on the outside. We're going to be looking here. It's exactly 55 degrees. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and write it. So if it's 55 degrees, what type of angle is it going to be? Obviously, hopefully, you know that this is acute. So I'm going to write it here so it fits on. So angle KHJ is 55 degrees. It's an acute angle. The next one, GHK. So just look here. GHK. So you can see this is greater than 90 and it's going here. So you're going to read on the outside. So this is 125. There's 120. Here's 130. And the increments between are 5. So GHK is going to be 125 degrees. And that means this is an obtuse because it's greater than 90 but less than 180. Okay, the next one is angle GHJ. So GHJ, well, you can see that this is a straight line. So it's going to measure 180 degrees and we call this a straight angle. Okay. And then the last one is angle GHL. So always follow along. GHL. So we can clearly see that this is a 90-degree angle. So a 90 degree is going to be a right angle. So you've done the two things they've asked you for. They've asked you for the degree and what type it is. So make sure on homework that you always answer everything. All right, let's move on to example 3, and let's not look and see, just look at the example. I'm going to go ahead and make that. Okay, so remember, a lot of this comes down to algebra, especially when you start seeing variables in things. So you can see that given the angle LKN, LKN is here, the whole thing is equal to 145. Find angle LKM, LKM is right here, and angle MKN. So they want this angle and then they want that angle. So we have algebra. So we're going to use the addition principle. I'm going to go ahead and use my board, put that up so we can keep that, and I can write underneath at the same time. We can look at both. Alright, so let me use red, change it up a little bit. So we know the whole thing, angle LKN. Sometimes you'll see this, especially it helps when you have an L. It almost looks like the angle. So the big angle is equal to 145. So it equals, we said earlier, you've seen in the other sections that you add the two angles together to get the larger angle. So angle LKM, LKM plus angle MKN. Okay, so we know the bigger one is found by adding the two smaller ones, and we know the total. So let's go ahead, we've made an equation, let's go ahead and plug into it. Alright, so we know they've told us that the big LKN is 145, so I'm going to go ahead and plug that in here. And you can put your little degree symbol if you want, it doesn't really matter. So the total is 145, so it says find these two angles. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to replace angle LKM, which is the first one right here, with 2x plus 10. That's what I tried to tell you. A lot of this is just algebra, and a lot of it is setting up equations and solving them. If you can do that, you're going to have no problems. Plus the next angle, so the next angle is 4x minus 3. So now I've gone ahead and set up all the algebra so I can go ahead and solve for x, and then when I find x, I can plug in and find what both of these angles are. And you can never go just by looking, you have to verify. Even though angle MKN looks like 90, it doesn't mean it is until we verify. So 145 is equal to, add the x's together, 2x plus 4x is 6x, 10 minus 3 is plus 7. Okay, so I am now going to subtract 7. So that is going to be 138 equals 6x. Divide by 6. And x equals 6, and then 63. Okay, so we found that x is 63. So now I have to go back and find the two angles. 2 times 63 plus 10. Okay, and the other one is going to be 4 times 63 minus 3. Okay, so we're going to look here and we're going to plug in Sorry, I said 63. I meant 23. 6 goes into 13 2 times, so I meant 23, not 63. Everything else looks good. Alright, so now that we know that x is 23, we can go and plug in. So 2 times 23 plus 10 equals 56. So this one is 56. And then we plug into the next one. 4 times 23 minus 3 is 89. So see, it doesn't have that square. So it's not a right angle. It looks like it, but it isn't. So it's 89. So we plugged in, you set up an algebra equation, and then you solved. So once you found x, which is 23, I don't know why I thought 60, 23, then you plug back in. And once you plugged it in, if you plugged in 63, you'd have angles that were huge. So you should know, okay, I've made a mistake. Let's go back and look at it. All right, so there you go. That's how you solve those. Here, congruent angles, again, two congruent angles are the same. So angle A is equal to angle B. They have the same way of notating, all right? So when they do that, they mean they're saying they're congruent. They can say they're equal to or congruent with those three little wavy lines that you see. And that's how you can tell in algebra when they're telling you something is the same. They either mark it or they give the same symbols. And that is the congruency. All right, guys, you can go ahead and get started.